Welcome!
Hi!
Welcome to another Torn Book Club. It's March 29th, and with me again is Suzanne, the
Hi.
button lady.
I actually wore buttons today.
What are your buttons say?
My buttons say Elvish spoken here,
Nice.
and I'm a Kiss me,
I'm
I'm
a ringer. Nice. So, we're back to another wonderful episode of the Silmarillion. And we're getting further into the story. This week we're going to be talking about...
I think this chapter is called The Naming of Names, and everything needs 20 names.
Yeah. This is a fairly big chapter. This is of the coming of the Elves and the Captivity of Melkor. So there's a number of things that we need to cover in this. We're going to be talking about the big conflict between the Valar and Melkor, which is called the Battle of the Powers, which I love that name. Like, Tolkien is really good at giving battles really cool names. Like, there's the Battle of the Powers. The big climactic battle is called the War of Wrath, which is like the coolest name of a battle I've ever heard. Temple saying it wouldn't be Tolkien without 12 dozen names.
Oh my god. I have three particular buttons. And it's, I started with Gandalf, and then I went to Aragorn, and then I finally went to Bilbo, but they're buttons with every one of their names on it.
Oy.
Right?
Oh man. Just between Aragorn and Gandalf alone, that's like 24 buttons.
But Bilbo has these long names that are like a sentence long. He who goes into the river and then comes out dry.
All the names that he gives himself, that he gives to Smaug.
Barrel Rider.
Barrel Rider, Luck Bearer,
Yeah.
Ring Winner. Yeah. Or no, is it Ring Winner, Luck Wearer?
Yeah, because Ring Winner would be he won the ring.
Northerner says, why not the War of a Slight Snit? Oh, that would be funny.
Yeah.
I would be highly amused by that one.
Yeah, that was when Frodo sent Sam away, which he never did.
Nah, we're not going to get into that. There have been lots of discussions in Tolkien Forever with
about
some
things that did or didn't happen.
Things that did or didn't happen in the books, because there's been a couple people who have decided to post some memes to Tolkien Forever that are... I want to be nice and diplomatic about it. They're mean-spirited, and they don't take book knowledge into account.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those. Yeah. Yes. I love Tolkien Forever on Facebook.
Yeah.
Join up.
Yeah, it is a really good group, and it's a lot of really good people. It's just there are a couple of people who have decided, hey, I'm going to be snarky for no reason.
Yeah. And some people think they're coming up with clever little sayings on memes.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is what really happened, and you're wrong.
Oh, yeah, like the big, like one of the ones that people just like jumped down his throat was a picture of Tolkien saying, spends half his life devising tons of different languages, names the base of the Dark Lord Mount Doom.
Yeah, that's not the only name of Mount
that's
Doom.
not the only name of Mount Doom. And in fact, Mount Doom is more of a nickname.
Yeah.
And I stole the One Ring saying, I'm already joined at that group. Good.
Fantastic. Christy is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And Tolkien Forever just participated in Tolkien Reading Day.
Yes,
yesterday.
They did.
Yeah.
And it's another one that I completely missed. I was gaming yesterday.
I missed this one yesterday, too, because I was celebrating my weekend of unemployment.
Yes, that's right. Josh is getting a new job.
I'm not getting. Already have.
So
I start on Monday, but this weekend I'm technically unemployed, so I'm going to live it up a little bit.
Fantastic. Congratulations to Josh for his new job. Yay!
So
all the fear comes tomorrow morning.
What is Northerner saying here? I honestly sometimes can't recall whether some things are book only, film only, or in both. Seen the films and read the books about 20 times. You know what, Northerner? I have the exact same problem.
And there are times too when there's a feeling that's delivered by a certain line, and Peter Jackson put that line in a different place.
Yeah.
To give, because the movie is more about a feeling rather as opposed to the books more about the actual telling of exactly what happened.
Right.
And you're trying to create a mood in a film that is differently created in a book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like there are points in the movie where I thought like that was something that Peter Jackson created for the movie, and then recently I went back and was reading through my old screenplay that I wrote based on Lord of the Rings, which I was slavishly to a fault faithful on, and I was noticing there were lines in there that were in the movie, in Peter Jackson's movie, that I thought Peter Jackson had come up with. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I guess that's a Tolkien line.
Yeah.
Because I know it was too much for me to think like, okay, there's no way Peter Jackson and I came up with the same line at the same time.
Tolkien did it.
Tolkien did it. Yeah. Tolkien's smarter than both of us.
But that all comes from the idea of these 2 chapters is when he starts naming things with multiple names.
Yes, yeah. And we'll get into that. Like this is actually like the least complicated part of it.
Yeah.
So let's take we'll take advantage of the little complication while we can, because when we get further into the different lineages of the elves and the different types of elves, it gets very confusing very quickly. I've had to read through the chapters several times just to keep it all straight in my head.
Yeah, that's why you have this much of the book just, background and index and to look it up when you get confused.
Yes. Looks like Light of the King had a bit of a bout of illness. I'm sorry, but it looks like you're on the mend. So I'm
glad you're here.
I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're doing better. Thank you for joining us. So before we get too much into the Silmarillion, a reminder that our book of the month is Middle-earth Madness, written by the OneRing.net staffers. And I had originally intended for next week to be our episode where we talk about this book with a bunch of the contributors, but then silly me realized next Sunday is Easter Sunday. Not only that, it's also WonderCon. So not only will most people be unavailable because they're doing family stuff for Easter, a lot of the locals who contributed to this are going to be at WonderCon, so won't be able to be on the show. And I don't want to have a show where they can't be a part of it. So I'm going to push it back to April 12th. But I'm still going to do an episode next weekend discussing a few more chapters. I know you won't be able to make it to that, and that's okay.
I think I'm having a barbecue with the family.
Okay, cool. Doing family stuff on Easter. How dare you?
Yeah, right. My family makes some good food.
Okay, all right, then all is forgiven. So next weekend we're gonna do a little bit more we're going to do a little bit more of the Silmarillion. Light of the King is saying that she will be at WonderCon. Excellent. I will not. I'm going to be here. I'm taking a year off of conventions. Aravandi's asking, where is WonderCon? It's in Anaheim, California. It's
the last few years.
For the last few years. Before then, it was in San Francisco. But then they moved down to Anaheim when they were refurbishing the convention center where they usually have it, and then after that happened, the prices to go back there skyrocketed. So they decided we're going to keep it in Anaheim.
They actually firmly decided that, or they're just going year by year?
I think it's more that they're going to keep it in Anaheim, but they might do another WonderCon 2 in San Francisco.
Maybe on a different date or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, right now it's in Anaheim, and it's the Anaheim Convention Center is literally across the street from Disneyland.
Literally
across the street from Disney. You just finished.
I just finished Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, she just finished the big sit.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Parks and Recreation, sorry to go off topic, but you must see it. It's a great show.
It's an amazing show. Yeah, you were upset with us because the finale made you cry.
It did. There were several episodes that made me cry. It's
yeah, me too.
It's a comedy show. So I must apologize to you and to the viewers too, because I've been going over here and seemingly not paying attention because I was.
No, you're dealing with all the dolls.
I was looking for my Olmo name tag. Not that you can read it, but just for my own psychological OCD, and I can't find it. So forgive me for not paying attention.
That's okay. Light of the King is saying, if any of you ever come to Anaheim, I will take you to Disneyland, aka my office.
Can imagine what that might look like.
Yeah, I always forget about that whenever I go to Disneyland. Granted, I don't go there very often, but I went yesterday. The
weekend of unemployment.
Yeah, that's how I celebrated. But it wasn't until after I'd already bought my ticket that she reminded me, oh, by the way, I could have given you free tickets or a discount. I'm like, oh, dang, I forgot.
Again.
Always happens. But I did meet up with Garfy Mal.
Very nice.
At Disneyland, so we wandered around a little bit.
Okay.
She's having some health issues herself.
Yeah.
I won't get into it. That's sort of personal, but she's doing well.
She's in some pain.
But she's doing well, and like we took it easy. Just went on like some of the simpler rides, like the slower ones, and since it was a hot day, ones that are in cool areas for a long time.
Right.
So one of the things we were sort of working out was how to transform a day in Disneyland into a Middle-earth adventure.
Okay. Well, put on a backpack and carry a walking stick, first of all.
Of course. Because we did do a Middle-earth Day in Disneyland last year, and I want to do it again. And this time give people stuff to do, like a scavenger hunt.
Oh, very nice.
But have the scavenger hunt be in the form of riddles.
Okay.
So they're all riddles, and you need to figure out what we're talking about.
I read The Hobbit to a bunch of third graders some years ago, and boy, those riddles are pretty tough for kids.
They are.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking of having like easy, mid-level, and difficult riddles for people to figure out, because I also know a lot of the little secrets of Disneyland, like the little hidden gems in there.
Okay.
And how to work them into Tolkien references.
Cool, very cool.
So we were sort of breaking down, like, okay, well, what should this ride be, and what should that ride be? And so we sort of found our Erebor, our Mount Doom, our Barad-dûr, Lake Town, Dead Marshes.
Lake Town Pirates?
Actually, no.
Oh, okay.
Pirates is Army of the Dead.
Okay.
Pirate's Lair, the island, is Lake Town. It used to be Tom Sawyer Island.
Okay, thank you. I go back a ways.
Yeah.
Who's Tom Sawyer?
Yeah.
Oh, pirates.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the same thing with the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse.
Yeah, now it's
Tarzan's treehouse.
Oh, okay.
Light of the King's screen just went black. Did anybody else's screen go black? I'm guessing not, because other people are still talking about what we're talking about. And Northerner is saying, before I'm too old, I want to go one of these days before I'm too old to do the Matterhorn ride. I will tell you from experience, Northerner, the Matterhorn is the only ride I go on that consistently injures me.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's so rickety and the cars are so small, and I'm kind of a big guy.
Okay.
So my knees always get jacked up in that thing.
Oh, and yeah, you're tall and you have the long body.
Yeah.
My mom, we went to Florida to Disney World, and we went on the Harry Potter ride at Universal, and she got her, she scratched her arm. I don't know, she was bleeding from it.
Yikes.
And she didn't even know what had happened. I'm sorry, that was really off topic.
That's really off topic. Well, okay, we're talking about Disneyland too much, so we should try to get back on topic with the Silmarillion. So, Northerner is saying, I believe that, Josh. The Matterhorn ride goes back to the 1950s, I bet. Well, Disneyland opened in 65?
The name, but Matterhorn came much later when they finally actually put it in.
Yeah, Matterhorn was probably put up in like
I would say the 80s.
The 80s, really? I thought it would have been like the 70s.
Okay.
It's probably the 70s it went up, but yeah, it's been around a while. They're refurbishing it now, so it might it might be better
I spent
when
my
they
youth-
reopen it.
I spent my youth in Florida, so a lot of my knowledge comes from Disney World as opposed to Disneyland.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, at this point, I've gone to Disneyland more than I've gone to Disney World. So, yeah. Light of the King is saying Disneyland opened in 1955. Well, she would know better than any of us, so I will take your word for that.
Was it Olmo? I think it was Olmo I was looking for.
You said you were looking for Olmo. There he is.
Who were the? No, Orome was the one that did not forsake Middle Earth. That's who I was looking for. Orome.
Yeah, we were going over the different Valar who will figure in the chapter we're talking about. We should get back onto Light of the King is saying the Matterhorn opened in 1959. Okay. So I stand corrected. 1959. So okay, let's get off of that topic and get back to the Silmarillion, shall we?
Absolutely. I cannot find Orome. Oh, Orome.
Well, he's off wandering in Middle Earth.
Yeah. Okay.
So what we're going to be talking about is the last part of what I call the Creation Trilogy, which is the story of the first big war in Middle Earth between the Valar and Melkor. And so last week we were talking about the trees of Valinor. They were, or no, not the trees of Valinor were created in Valinor. But we had the lamps of the Valar that were torn down by Melkor, cast all of Middle-earth in darkness. The Valar retreated to the newly formed continent of Valinor and set up the two trees, which is the only source of light in Arda at that point. So Middle-earth is still
there
covered
are some stars.
There are some stars that. And
not too many.
Not too many. There are going to be more. We'll get into that. But right now, Middle Earth is covered in darkness, and Melkor's various underlings are just running rampant through Middle Earth.
Yeah, because they're enjoying the darkness.
Yeah, they enjoy the darkness. Everything is sort of falling to waste.
Yavanna actually goes forward and puts a kind of a sleep spell on a bunch of her growing things.
That's part of what's in this chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So where we've left off is Middle Earth is covered in darkness. The Valar are in Valinor. Aule has gone against the wishes of Ilúvatar and created dwarves.
Yes, he has.
And Ilúvatar, being the forgiving sort, has taken them under his wing. And put them out in Middle Earth.
I still say because Aule made a really nice kiss-ass apology.
Yes, he did. And also Yavanna and Manwë have created the eagles and the Ents.
Yes.
And
you're still going to need some wood.
They're still going to need wood. So that's where we left off here. And so then we begin this final chapter of the coming of the Elves and the captivity of Melkor. And so this chapter begins with Yavanna and Tulkas. Let's see if we can bring up their pictures here. Yavanna going to Manwë and all the other Valar and saying to them, listen, we need to do something about Melkor because the children of Ilúvatar are coming any minute now. We don't know when, we don't know where, but we know it's going to be soon, and we need to clear the path for them.
Actually, from what I'm noticing, it was Yavanna and Orome that went to Manwë.
Manwë, yeah.
Manwë about this, and they said, we need to get rid of Melkor right now, and that's when Tulkas came up and said, "Oh yeah, let's do some fighting."
Yeah,
fighting around the world.
Yeah, that's when Tulkas comes in. He's like, "Yes, we need to do this. I'm totally with them."
Yeah,
but
start a fight.
He's basically like, "Are we really?" Like he's basically like, "Are we really going to let ourselves be cornered by one guy?"
Yeah.
Like that's sort of Tulkas' attitude towards the whole thing.
The way I imagine it, I don't know if any of you go back this far, but if you remember the first Lethal Weapon movie, where Mel Gibson's character is, there's something going on way over somewhere else, and Mel Gibson's character is essentially like this. What? What's that over there? Do I sense trouble? I just imagine Tolka's like there, because Orome and Yavanna are like, man, we need to start a fight with this guy. Fight? Is there a fight going on?
Yeah.
I want to be part of a fight.
Yeah, that's Tulkas in a nutshell.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. Is there a fight? Can I be part of the fight, please?
Okay, Light of the King just had the funniest autocorrect. She typed in Tulkas and it changed it to Tulsa.
Tulsa, yeah.
That makes sense. It makes sense. And so they meet in this area. Like, one of the things we should talk about is where they actually meet. It's an area called the Ring of Doom.
The Ring of Doom again. Yeah, the Ring of Doom.
And the Ring of Doom, the way I would describe it, because first of all, Tolkien's definition of doom in this is not dread and terror, it's more fate. So,
but before they even meet there, just because Yavanna was telling Manwë, and I keep on saying it wrong. I keep on saying it wrong. Josh knows how to say it right. Do not repeat after me. Repeat after him.
Okay.
Manwë. Yavanna said, "We need to go fight. We need to go fight." And Tulkas is going, "Yes, we need to go fight. We need to go fight. We gotta go fight." And Manwë goes, as he does in the past, "Let me ask Daddy.
Yeah.
I'll be right back." And so he goes and asks Daddy about it. And when he asks Daddy, and then he comes back, said, "Okay, let's all meet in the Ring of Doom."
Yeah. Well, you keep you mentioned him always going to Ilúvatar, and I sort of feel like this is a good time to bring up like how Manwë and Melkor are very much two sides of the same coin in that respect. Whereas Melkor is 100% defiant, won't do anything Ilúvatar says, actively fights against him. Manwë can't do anything without the approval of Ilúvatar or without running it by Ilúvatar first.
Again, I love metaphors, and I'm thinking of Cyclops from the X-Men and Wolverine from the X-Men.
That's a good one.
And then Professor X. Wolverine will do whatever the heck he wants, whereas Cyclops goes, "Professor X, is that what we should do?
Yeah.
Is that what we should do, Professor X?" Not the comic book, because the comic book Cyclops had a lot more backbone.
Yeah.
But in the movies, it was like, "Professor X, should we do that?" Is that right?
Well, because Manwë is very much a believer in Ilúvatar, knows what he's doing. Everything is there in the music of the Ainur. And I like to think that the music of the Ainur sort of functions kind of like prophecy, where it's all there, but you don't really see it until the time is right.
Kind of like Tolkien's actual books. That's why we have to reread them so many times.
Exactly.
Because I mean, even in the last couple chapters, Manwë actually had to say to Yavanna, and they both said to each other, "Hey, did you notice that part in the music?" And then Manwë takes another look at the music and says, "Oh yeah, you're right. It was there. I never noticed that before."
Exactly.
It's kind of like all of us going over Tolkien over
and that's
over
exactly
again.
what Manwë does this time. He goes to Ilúvatar and goes back to the song and realizes that the children of Ilúvatar are going to awake in darkness. So that means they can't get rid of Melkor, and they can't supplant the darkness until after the children of Ilúvatar have awakened. So in the chat, they're talking about the different fortresses of Melkor. Right now, the area that he resides in is called Utumno.
Another great name.
Yeah. But he does create a fortress further to the northwest as sort of like a gateway to sort of fend off the Valar, and that's called Angband.
Who's in charge of Angband?
Sauron!
Oh, wow!
How about that? So we have Angband, we have Utumno, and then there's also the other fortress, Thangorodrim, which is more of a gateway into Utumno.
Okay. When we get into places naming things, that's where I get terribly confused.
Yeah, we're going to go over geography later, because we're getting to the point now where we sort of need to clarify some things, because it's going to get confusing really fast.
Multiple names.
So for right now, we have Melkor in Utumno. He's sending he's sending all manner of creature out into the world, and Yavanna at this point has like gone into Middle Earth, and she's taken all of the trees and all of the lesser beasts and pretty much put them to sleep.
So that they'll be fresh whenever the
Whenever the light,
firstborn wake
whenever
up.
the light comes back.
Yeah.
And so this is her way of safeguarding them against Melkor.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Orome is going through and hunting down Melkor's minions, while at the same time keeping his eyes out for the children of Ilúvatar wherever they may be.
Yeah, because they're the only two that really hang out in Middle Earth.
They're the only two who go to Middle Earth. Everybody else stays in Valinor. So they're doing that, and this is the point where Orome finds a very way off harbor called Cuivienen.
Okay.
Which is at the base of one of the fallen lamps.
Everybody say it together. Cuivienen.
Cuivienen.
Because when you read it in the book, you say, okay, I'm not going to try and pronounce that.
Yeah, it's thank God I've got an audiobook of this. It helps a lot.
Okay, cool.
And it's a really good audiobook, which for some reason is not available in the U.S. I had to get it by...
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had to have somebody send it to me.
Okay.
And it's a really good audiobook. The narrator is fantastic.
Nice.
But yeah, for some reason, the only one that's available in the U.S. and via Audible is the German version.
Ow.
Yeah, figure that one out.
Ow.
So anyway, he goes to this area called Cuivienen, and his horse, Nahar, is actually the one who stops and goes and
senses something.
Senses something, and it's there that he starts hearing singing and realizes that this is where the children of Ilúvatar are, the elves. They've awoken.
Now, the thing is, Melkor's evil.
And Melkor's also has a much stronger presence in Middle Earth.
Well, yeah, the thing is, he's put, because he knows that at some point someone's going to find the elves, he's been throwing into the weaves of what the elves will hear.
Well,
the fact that...
he also hates the elves because they are...
Oh, yeah.
They're the children of Ilúvatar. They are a direct line to Ilúvatar.
Mm-hmm.
So
they were one thing that he couldn't really take control of.
Right, and so what he does is he sort of creates. First of all, Melkor gets to the elves first.
I don't think physically. I think
not physically, but his.
They don't necessarily see him,
mm-hmm.
but he gets messages. Yeah, he spins some tales.
He has his people, his minions go out there. And what they do is they deliberately make themselves look like a guy on a horse. Mm. And now, this is something I want to point out, is that Tolkien makes a very strong point of distinguishing what is a matter of record and what is a matter of speculation. Mm. Because the Silmarillion is a history told by the elves. So there are certain things that they don't have records of, so all they can do is speculate. So this area falls under the speculation part. And that is whether or not Melkor was sending them out as men on horses in order to scare the elves so much that when they finally do meet Orome, they'll be scared of him.
Right.
Which is exactly what happens.
Yeah, and stories as well.
Yeah. And the other thing that happens is they live in this valley, in this harbor. But if any of them wander too far afield, Melkor's minions will snatch them up.
And the story is the hunter got them.
Yeah. And the other bit of speculation, and again, this is something that is not part of record, except we all kind of know this because Sarumann talks about it in the Fellowship of the Ring movie, which is all of these elves who go further afield and get snatched up by the hunter, they are taken away to Utumno, where they are then tortured and twisted and mangled and eventually become the orcs.
I want to step back just for a second because they say in here, or he says in here, that one of the things they were worried about is because Middle Earth doesn't have any light. when the gods were talking about.
Oh right, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, go ahead.
When the gods were talking about, oh my God, the elves are going to be born, and we need to go make sure everything's safe for them. They're not going to have any light. The only light they had were
a couple stars.
A few stars.
Yeah.
A few stars. So on hearing that concept that they wouldn't have too much light, Varda. Varda goes to those wells of drippings that were dripping from the two trees in Valinor.
The dew of the two trees.
And she grabs from the silver one. And she starts making stars. No, it wasn't some small feat. It was a big job that she was going to. She was just throwing up stars so that she was just getting more and more light out there. So the sky was filled with stars.
It wasn't just that she was making stars. She was making constellations too.
Yeah, she was.
To send messages to the elves.
Now get this. I love this part. Because they name several constellations here, whose names I will not repeat because I will not say them right.
Okay.
But there's one here that I must reference because it says, and Menelmacar with his shining belt.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? If you know anything about any constellations,
that's
Orion.
Yeah.
That's Orion. And then she set the crown of 7 mighty stars to swing. That's Cassiopeia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Cassiopeia or the Seven Sisters. It's the 7-star constellation, which is...
It goes like this.
Which is also...
Like a dot to dot.
Yeah. And that constellation is also set by Varda as a direct FU to Melkor.
Yes. It says, the sickle of the Valar and a sign of doom for Melkor.
Yeah. So that she sets that one up as a reminder to Melkor, one day we're coming for you.
Coming. So by the time, and it's said in the book that she was done just in time for the elves to wake up, and so when they first woke up, the light that they saw
are the stars.
And that's the only light they had, and there was a good amount of it. But that's why they pray to her more than any other god or goddess.
And that's why they're always referencing the stars. That's why they always talk about the stars. One of their main calls is Elbereth Gilthoniel, and Elbereth is another name for Varda.
That's what I think Samwise says when he holds up the
Frodo.
Frodo says, or Samwise, or both?
You're talking about the vial of...
Arendelle?
Yeah. Yeah, that's Frodo.
Oh, okay, Frodo says it, and he says, Elbereth, because I can't say the other words.
Well, he says, well, no, he calls out to Arendelle because that's the star. I don't have...
Yeah,
why am I looking for that in the Silmarillion?
I could have sworn he meant... I could be wrong. Let's look it up later.
I'd have to look at it again, but I'm pretty sure he calls out to Arendelle and not Elbereth.
Okay. And Arendelle is the name of a star, but we'll get into that later.
Arendelle comes into this much, much later, and in a big way. So the elves have awoken, and they
love the stars.
They love the stars. They're scared of the darkness, and they're scared of Orome when he finally arrives. And it takes a lot for him to convince them to trust him.
Oh, this is the thing that was a good... Keep talking.
Yeah. So
there was a line that I really liked about that sort of thing.
Yeah, go for it. It takes a lot for him to convince them that he's not evil. But there are also a number of elves who realize that this is not this dark hunter that they've been seeing and that they're scared of. This is something possessing a different kind of light. And this is, of course, the light of Aman, which is the light that all Valinor possess, or all Valar possess.
But those that had courage and stayed perceived swiftly that the great rider was no shape out of darkness, for the light of Aman was in his face.
See? Got it totally right. I haven't read this chapter 5 times, no.
And all the noblest of elves were drawn towards it. Again, that's seem fairer and feel valor.
Yeah.
Yeah, or feel fair. A sentence like that.
Fair and foul. So, but they're also a long way away from Valinor.
A long, long way. You thought the walk from the Shire to Mordor was long.
No.
That's peanuts compared to this.
They have... so Orome, what he decides to do is he takes 3 ambassadors from the elves and takes them to Valinor.
Because by this time the elves have actually formed groupings. They have 3 distinct.
We'll get into that in a second.
But he takes a leader from each of those.
Right.
So he picks who the elves themselves have designated as their own leaders, one from each group.
Yeah.
And by this time the elves have already named themselves the Quendi. Quendi.
The Quendi, which means people who speak.
Quendi, the people who speak.
Because at that point, they're the only ones they know of who actually speak.
Yeah.
And Orome calls them the Eldar,
mm-hmm.
which means those who love the stars, I think.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right.
And that's the name that he gives to all of the elves, although it sort of becomes a bit more specific than that later on.
I do. I want to drive home though the fact that the light of Amun was in his face.
Right.
It's very akin to the idea of someone saying you could see God reflected in someone's eyes.
Right.
And it's like saying that peaceful reverence of an almighty being.
Right.
Is within someone.
And that's very important because the light of Amun Amun itself is a region in Valinor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the region where the trees of Valinor are, and that's the brightest spot on the
holiest.
planet. Yeah. It's the holiest place on the planet.
The light of Daman, the light of the 2 trees,
mm-hmm.
was all very, very holy.
And all of that light, I think, still even goes all the way back to the light imperishable, the imperishable
mm-hmm.
flame that Ilúvatar has, because he sent that down into Ea and into
mm-hmm.
Arda.
Yeah.
So it's a part of that. It's a part of them because they're made from that.
Yeah. There's a line that Delenn says in Babylon 5 about she's trying to calm Sheridan. And forgive me if you don't know these characters, but she says he's had a bad day, and it's a science fiction series. She goes, the things that make up, the molecules that make up the stars in the sky also make up you.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, and we are star stuff. We are the universe made sentient, trying to figure itself out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a beautiful concept.
Yeah.
But that's
kind of
what you said.
And it's sort of the same thing, because since the elves are the children of Ilúvatar, they also have that light within them. So they recognize that in Orome.
But again, Babylon 5 has a lot of Tolkien references in it. If you've
mm-hmm.
ever watched that series, or if you ever thought about it, consider it if you like Lord of the Rings and Tolkien.
And Light of the King points out another one of Varda's names, Elentari, which means Star Queen.
Yes.
And so
again, with the multiple names, this is where it begins.
Yes, all the different multiple names. So Orome takes these 3 ambassadors to Valinor to show them what a wonderful place it is, because the Valar have decided it's best for them to take the elves out of Middle Earth and bring them to Valinor. But they don't want to force them because they have no control over them. They have to coerce them.
Coerce.
Or they have to convince.
Some would say coerce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's certainly some coercion going on.
Yeah.
Because the plan is for Orome to take these ambassadors to Valinor and show them what a great and wonderful place this is, and then have them go back and say to all of their people,
"Let's go!
Come with us! Let's do this!
It's a really cool place. Let's go!"
And that's exactly what they do.
But the elves are like also the overprotective parents. No, I'm sorry. The Valar are like the overprotective parents
mm-hmm.
to the elves, and say, "It's too dirty out in Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to stay there. Come live with us where it's clean and pretty."
Yes. And
it's gonna get all messy.
So I wasn't able to make slides for these names, so you'll just have to hear them. So the 3 main ambassadors, who then are set up as kings among the elves, are Ingwe, Finwë, and Elwë. And they are in control, or they are the rulers of 3 different elven peoples. Ingwe is the ruler of. I'm going to have to bring up the tree. I have to look at it.
Actually, your battle comes first before they actually start bringing the elves over.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. we have to get back to I'm sorry, I got so into the elves, I forgot about the Captivity of Melkor.
Because first comes the captivity, as the name of the chapter. First, it's the captivity of the coming of the elves,
And the Captivity of Melkor. So technically, the elves do come first, but then we have the Captivity of Melkor.
And then they come some more.
Yeah.
And I don't mean anything by that.
Then they get going.
Yeah.
So they have another battle. Now it's important here. The Valar actually set up kind of like a protective shield around the elves, so that they don't really see a whole lot of what's going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like set up the tent, honey, and if you hear any noises tonight or for the next few months, because they don't really describe how long this takes. It's kind of as long as it takes.
I imagine it took a couple of years.
Yeah. They say don't worry about the sounds you hear.
Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Mommy and Daddy are just having a spat.
Yeah. Don't pay any mind to the man behind the curtain.
So
go back to sleep.
So they do that, and then all of the Valar cross over from Valinor into Middle Earth.
I think they set up a guard. Did they say whether it was Orome watching over the elves or just a guard?
I think they just said a guard. It might have been Samaya.
Okay.
Because all the other Valar, they go after Angband, they go after Utumno, and they're ready to take down Melkor. They're ready to take him out of the equation.
Let's put an end to this.
And led by, of course, Tulkas, fighting across the world. So they bring down Angband, they bring down Utumno,
but they never find Sauron.
They never find Sauron.
He might be somewhere else. Oh, nothing will come of that, I'm sure.
No, nothing at all. Well, they make a point. Tolkien makes a point of saying that the caverns in Utumno were so vast that the Valar couldn't explore all of it.
Mm.
But they go where they need to go, which is to Melkor.
Mm-hmm.
And Tulkas, being Tulkas, beats him down again, and then finally chains him in a special chain that Aule makes.
Aule.
And it should be pointed out that Aule is also not a big fan of doing this because he knows that you're gonna ruin some mountains, you're gonna destroy some earth going after Melkor, and he's not happy about that.
Mm.
But at the same time, he knows it has to be done. So Aule makes a special chain, and I can't remember the name of the chain. I have to look it up.
Long and grievous was the siege of Utumno, and many battles were fought before its gates, which naught but rumor is known to the elves.
And you see that's what I'm talking about with Tolkien's distinguishing record and speculation. Because for these first few chapters, all the action is very vague. And that's deliberate because this is all sort of hearsay, rumor, long ago lost memories that the elves had before they started keeping records.
They know little of the riding of the might of the West against the North in the beginning of their days.
Mm-hmm. And plus, the elves were not part of this. They were off in Cuiviénen, being kept safe.
Never did Melkor forget that this war was made for the sake of the elves.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it.
Yeah. So
I'm looking for the name of that chain, but I'm not finding it here.
I know, it's here somewhere. We'll find it. Yeah, they set a guard over Cuiviénen. So, yeah, they never say that it was actually a Valar. It might have been a Maiar. It might have been some Maiar.
And Gainor.
And Gainor.
And Gainor.
Uh-huh.
A-N, Gain, G-A-I-N-O-R.
Mm-hmm.
And Gainor.
Mm-hmm. So that's the chain that they capture Melkor with. And they drag him back to Valinor.
Kicking and screaming.
Tulkas, I just imagine like Tulkas just like with the chain over his shoulder, big grin on his face, and Melkor is just going, ah!
But Melkor also, like Loki in Norse mythology, is someone who could talk a good game. And
yes.
And you need to watch out for his lies.
And this is the important part because they bring him to the Ring of Doom, which to to sort of draw a parallel, just so that you can sort of picture it in your head, it's kind of like, I would imagine it's kind of set up like the Jedi Council in the Star Wars trilogy.
Outside though.
Outside, under the trees of Valinor, is this ring of seats for all the Valar, and this is where they make all of their decisions. And even for something like this is so big, even Ulmo shows up for it.
Yeah, he actually says that almost literally word for word. Even Ulmo decided to come out of the water and hang out here to take care of this situation.
So they bring Melkor before the Ring of Doom, and they all sit and try to decide his fate. And Melkor, he pleads for his life, and he talks a good game. And
sued for pardon, but his prayer was denied.
They don't give him a full pardon. What they do instead is they take him to the halls of Mandos, into the deepest, darkest chamber they have, and chain him down there for a sentence of 3 ages.
Well, it says, there was Melkor doomed to abide for 3 ages long. Does that mean he actually served those 3 ages?
Yep.
Okay.
Because that's when he comes out, they're very he's very specific in, like, this is the 3rd age of the chaining of Melkor. This is the 2nd age of the chaining of Melkor. So so how long an age is, we don't know. A lot happens in that time, but it's determined, like, this is a jail sentence. This isn't an execution.
When Ulmo gets involved, you know you've got trouble.
Very true. Because Ulmo doesn't get involved very much, but when he does, you know it's for a damn good reason.
Yeah, if I gotta come out of the ocean, it better be for a good reason.
Yeah. So Melkor has been chained in the halls of Mandos. He's basically jailed. He's not executed. He's not banished back to the Void. I don't think they could execute him. No, the most they could do is probably just banish him back to the Void.
Yeah.
Which they had done before.
Take care of it. Yeah.
Which they had done before, and he came back.
Yeah.
So so this time because Manwë is very compassionate, and he because like I've said before, Manwë and Melkor are 2 sides of the same coin. Manwë can't comprehend the hatred that Melkor feels,
because he doesn't have that hatred in him. There's
he doesn't have that hatred himself.
There's an exact line a little bit later that I love. That's exactly what you said.
Mm-hmm. And so Manwë feels like, give him enough time and he can rehabilitate himself.
Okay.
Which, just smacks of, this is gonna bite you in the butt later.
But at least for that one line that says Manwë couldn't understand that kind of hatred because he didn't have it in him.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a modern day action movie where the good guy says, "Oh, he'll change," and they say, "Why do you think that? You're stupid."
Yeah.
But Manwë actually was created not to think those thoughts.
Right. But it's like, it's that sort of myopic view, which Tolkien does a lot in his stories. Like even in Lord of the Rings, with Sauron. The reason that they decide to go on this quest with just a few people is because Sauron is so myopic. He would never even think that his enemies
would destroy it.
Would try to destroy the One Ring. He's thinking they try to keep it for themselves and use it as a weapon against him. Mm-hmm. And he feels that that's where he has the advantage. So, and they talk about this in the Council of Elrond, is that we need to sneak into Mordor and take it to Mount Doom and destroy the ring, because this is the one move Sauron will never see coming.
Fellowship, sneak.
Because he can't comprehend that somebody else would try to destroy the ring rather than use it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same way with Manwë. He can't comprehend that Melkor could be so full of hatred that he's beyond redemption.
Yeah. He wants to believe in all redemption for all.
Mm-hmm.
So now that Melkor is chained.
They've ruined Middle Earth. Like, they have done serious damage.
But they still have a discussion about what do you think the best thing to do is. Ulmo says, let them walk, let them enjoy Middle Earth, they'll figure it out.
And I would say, like, it was a pretty even split between the Valar, between do we bring the elves to Valinor and keep them under our protection, Or do we let them fend for themselves and grow on their own?
Many evil things still lingered there, and others were dispersed and fled into the dark and roamed in the waste places of the world. So that's what they're worried about. And of course, Sauron.
Yeah. But, I mean, they don't even know about Sauron.
Yeah, well, I think they...
Well, they know he exists.
Right,
but,
they didn't worry themselves about it.
Yeah, because really, Sauron is a Maiar. He's beneath them.
Yeah.
And also Sauron at this point is living underground. Like he's sort of sitting back and biding his time.
But yeah, exactly.
And because Sauron is a Maiar, he's serving Melkor, and he's waiting for that day when Melkor returns. So that's kind of what he's biding his time for right now.
So I want you all to enjoy the peace and the peace of mind of the fact that right now, the elves only have 4 names.
Mm-hmm.
Elves, Firstborn, Eldar,
and Quendi.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 4 names.
This is where we get into the name stuff.
Yeah.
So
enjoy that moment. Everybody take a breath of relief. Because it's only going to get worse from here.
There's going to be lots of names.
Have a linguist write a book and see what happens.
So we, as I mentioned before, we have the 3 ambassadors who become the 3 kings. Mm-hmm. Ingwe, Finwë, and Elwë.
Ingwe was the king of the
Vanyar.
The Vanyar. That's the first group of elves.
These are the first group of elves. They go to Valinor.
They're the prettiest.
And they stay there. They leave Middle Earth, go to Valinor, never come back to Middle Earth except for possibly maybe one.
No, like a child of one.
Right. Okay, you're right. So the Vanyar, they're the most beautiful, the most glorious of elves. They're also the most sheltered of the elves.
They're the most faithful to the Valar.
Yeah. And because they stay in Valinor, they really don't figure very prominently in the events to come.
How Manwë treats Ilúvatar, that's how the Vanyar treat the Valar.
Yeah.
They're not sycophants. They just love them. They just love being in Valinor.
They're incredibly faithful.
Yes.
And
the second group?
The second group is the Noldor, whose king is Finwë.
Finwë. We're going to be hearing more about this guy.
Mm-hmm. The Finwë and the Noldor, they figure very prominently in the stories to come.
Yeah.
The Noldor, they make the trip to Valinor, but they don't stay in Valinor. Stuff happens.
That's later.
Stuff happens that incites them to leave and return to Middle Earth, and we'll get to that.
It only gets worse. But also, of all the elves, all of them love Varda because that was the first light that they saw. The Noldor, in particular, love making things.
Yeah.
And they hearken to Aule a lot.
Yeah, the Noldor are taken under Aule's wings.
Yes.
And they're strong craftsmen. They create great jewels and great armor and all this great stuff.
They create what? They create what?
Oh yeah, that whole Silmaril thing.
Okay.
Erebani's saying, is Finwë the other name for Thingol, or am I remembering incorrectly? You are remembering incorrectly.
Thingol, and we will get to that in just a moment.
Thingol is the other name for Elwë, the 3rd king.
Of the 3rd group. The biggest group.
The biggest group. The Teleri.
There were so many of these guys that
Elwë couldn't control them all himself. He needed to bring his brother into it.
It's yeah. The 2 of them had to control them all because there's so many. But as they begin their walk, and we're not there yet, but as they begin their walk, mostly it's the Teleri because they're such an enormous group that gets shaven off during the walk. Some would get left over there, some get left over there, some wander off over there, some say, you know what, I'm gonna stay.
Yeah. Now, it should be pointed out at this point that in the initial leaving of Cuivianen, there were a number of elves who decided, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go on this journey. They stayed behind.
Free choice.
And they're typically called the Avari, or the unwilling. Mm-hmm. And what that they essentially become what are called dark elves
Well,
because they refuse to go to the light of Valinor.
they refused.
Yeah.
Now, the ones that got waylaid along the walk or lost their way or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're also called dark elves.
Yeah.
But they're not called unwilling because they were willing,
Mm-hmm.
and yet they still never got to see the light of Amen. So they are dark elves.
Yeah.
So dark doesn't mean evil, as many D&D players might think. Dark only means they haven't seen the light of heaven.
Right. And they go by other names, which I'm not even going to get into yet.
Oh my god.
And Ava's asking, did you mention the elves that stayed in Middle Earth? Because the chat is like behind us a little bit.
Right.
So, and there she goes, oh, you're talking about that now. So,
Hello.
So, yeah,
There are some that refuse to go.
There are some that refuse. There are others that are waylaid, and actually one of the kings gets waylaid.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
We'll find out next week.
Yeah.
And Light of the King is saying dark meant they haven't seen the light, and that makes sense, yes. Yeah, they're not evil elves. And in fact, there are some of the dark elves who play roles later on, and they're actually good guys.
Yeah. Dark has nothing to do with evil in this sense at all. It only means lack of light.
Yeah. And so, but the Teleri, they get waylaid a lot in the journey.
There's just too many to keep track of.
There's too many, and even one of the kings, Elwë, gets waylaid, and his brother Olwë has to take over for him.
They never find him, but there are several that actually stay behind because I'm not leaving without my king.
Yeah, they want to stay with Elwë, and so they when they finally do find him again, they become part of this new race of elves.
And another name. And they're also called the Sea Elves, and we'll get into that later.
They're the Sea Elves.
They really like the water.
Yeah, the Sea Elves are big. Eravani saying, except for Aol, we'll get to him later. Yes, we'll get to Aol later.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's much later on.
So now you also have Calaquendi.
Calaquendi, yes.
Calaquendi, which are the Elves of the Light.
Yes.
And then you have Moraquendi, which are the Elves of the Dark.
Right.
Dark Elves, the Elves of the Light.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then
those are the two. Those are the two first big groups.
Yeah, and then you have the Vanyar,
the Vanyar, the Noldor, and the Teleri. Now, Vanyar and Noldor,
the Unwilling.
Yeah. Well, okay. Before we break that down further,
okay.
It should be pointed out that the Vanyar and the Noldor are all pretty much Calaquendi, Elves of the Light, because they all go to Valinor.
Yeah. There might be one or two that gets lost, but mostly they've got a vision.
Yeah, like if a couple get waylaid, there weren't enough of them to actually start a new race of elves.
Yeah.
But the Vanyar stay in Valinor forever. The Noldor eventually leave Valinor. We'll get to that later.
The only hint of a Vanyar that ever comes back to Middle Earth is the child of someone who's part Vanyar and someone who's part Noldor.
Right. So the Teleri, on the other hand, they fragment all over the place.
They take their damn time. They actually go a different route than everybody else do. It's like, no, we want to go this way.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know what? We'll get into them at another time when we start talking about Thingol.
Well, Thingol is the next chapter.
Yeah, but we're not getting into that.
I thought we were doing two.
Not this time around.
It's only one page.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that one, but even that is just like an overview.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll
just the happening of that it happened.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But before we get into that, I want to take a little bit to talk about geography. Okay. Because this is where things usually confuse people. And it certainly confused me for a while.
It confuses me terribly. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty okay on the names, on the variety of names. It's when we get into the geography, I completely get lost. So I'm going to be mostly quiet and asking stupid questions at this point.
These questions are not stupid. They all make sense. So, there we go. Okay. So what we have here is a map of the whole of Middle Earth. Now, one of the things, or a good part of Middle Earth, I should say, one of the things that I was noticing in discussions with with Tolkien Forever was that there were a lot of people who were confusing Middle Earth and Arda, sort of implying that they were the same thing. Middle Earth is not the same as Arda.
Arda's bigger.
Arda is the world, or Arda is the entire planet.
And what's A?
Ea is the earth and the heavens.
Okay, so Ea is everything that's not the void.
Yes.
Arda is the world.
Arda is the world.
Middle Earth is where people live.
Middle Earth is the continent where elves and men live. Basically, when Arda was first built, it had just one continent.
Oh, that's kind of neat because it goes downward with the smallest name. Ea is everything.
Yeah.
Arda is a smaller thing, and Middle Earth is a smaller thing.
Right.
The names get bigger, the size gets smaller.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we look at where is it? I think look at this other map. We see here.
Arda.
That's Arda.
Essentially, I mean, we don't see a round Earth because
Right.
it's not round yet, right?
Well, it's roundish.
Okay.
So basically, okay, the way this breaks down is in the beginning, it was all one big continent that was called the Middle Earth.
Okay.
Then we had the Lamps of Valinor.
Okay, and then the first fight.
The first fight, they were smashed, and the continent was split in two.
Like
that one. And you can see, it's actually still joined up at the top.
Mm-hmm. And that one's a bit of a confusion thing too because it has the lamps up, and yet Valinor is there. Where
Right.
by the time Valinor was created, the lamps were down. So it just shows you everything.
Yeah, this is more of an amalgamation of everything.
And Numenor is there.
And
in the middle,
Numenor is there.
and it wouldn't be there yet.
Numenor isn't there yet at this point. So that region on the right of that map is Middle Earth.
I stole One Ring. I'm already confused. I'm so sorry. So am I. We'll get confused together.
The region on the left is Valinor. So Valinor is actually an entire continent.
They're gods. They're big people. They need more room.
Yeah, exactly. So, but as you can see up in the north, they're actually joined. So you can still walk from one continent to another if you wanted to.
It's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
People could die.
People could die. It's not an ideal situation. That's how Orome usually crosses between the two lands, is through that.
What, he can't call his buddy Olmo? Olmo doesn't give any free rides?
No. Are you kidding? No. Olmo does his own thing.
Brethren with the gods.
So, then we get to Middle Earth. Now, Middle Earth is... This is the part where everybody gets confused because people, myself included, read all the different locations in the Silmarillion and start immediately trying to correlate them to locations in Lord of the Rings.
Which we obviously know more about.
And there is no correlation, which gets even more confusing when you start seeing names repeated. Like, for instance, there is a Minas Tirith in the Silmarillion. There's a Minas Tirith in the Lord of the Rings. They are not the same Minas Tirith.
There's a Denethor who's an elf.
Yes. There is a Gorgoroth. There are the mountains of Gorgoroth in the Silmarillion. There's the plains of Gorgoroth in Lord of the Rings. They are not the same area.
When it comes to Lorien, though, in Valinor, the area called Lorien, and the god who's nicknamed Lorien, I always felt that Galadriel named her area of the world in honor of that Lorien, Lorien. Sort of like York and New York, Orleans, New Orleans.
Yeah, like she, and it would have made sense because she spent a lot of time in Lorien. Oops. So. Oh, and Ravandir's here. Yay! You're just in time for the geography lesson, Ravandir.
Good luck.
So we're going to break this down as succinctly as possible. All of the stuff that you hear about in Lord of the Rings are in a region called Eriador. Everything that you hear, all the locations you read about in the Silmarillion are in a region called Beleriand. Now, as you see in this map here, this area in blue is Beleriand. This area over here in what is that, beige,
Okay.
is Eriador.
So all that blue, none of it is water?
It's all water.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
it's sunken land.
It's sunken land, and I don't want to talk too much about that because that means spoiling the climax of the story.
Right.
But
none of that blue is water.
right,
Really.
really, some of it is.
Yeah.
But not very. So right now, where we are in the story, all of this is very much untamed land.
No paths.
Melkor has been using it for his own purposes. All the lesser beasts and all the plants have been put to sleep by Yavanna. The only sentient beings walking around at this point are the elves.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all very untamed land.
And you consider, too, they have a long walk to walk, and there are no paths. I mean, you thought it was hard getting through Mirkwood, and there was a path, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no paths now.
There's no path here. So, where all this starts in the valley of
Cuivienen.
Which I should point out is lost to history. It's lost to maps. Nobody knows where it is.
Like the Garden of Eden.
Mm-hmm. They have a general idea of where it might be, and it's somewhere.
Touch me.
Sorry, it's somewhere over here.
Where that square is?
Yeah, right around where that square is. I stole the One Ring saying they need Gandalf. Well, they have Orome, but he's not very good. So from that area, way over there, the elves need to march across all of this
and
to get to Valinor.
Yeah, that's a lot longer than Frodo's walk to Mordor.
Mm-hmm. So in this chapter, you will hear them talk about a couple locations that you may recognize, like the Anduin River, or the Misty Mountains, or the Blue Mountains. That's all over here. And
in this area.
Yeah, in that area. And in fact, the Blue Mountains, which is right around where my hand is, right there, that's kind of the border between these two areas, Eriador and Beleriand. Now,
but there's a lot more land in this blue area over here.
Yeah. Now, through the course of the story, Eriador is going to stay as sort of an untamed eastern land. Some of the dark elves go there, some of the men go there, a lot of the dwarves are there, but it's far east. They don't really play that big a role in the major events of the Silmarillion, which all take place over here in Beleriand. And so you will see, like, you have a big forest right there in the center. That's Doriath. That's an elf stronghold. I'm not going to go too much into the specifics.
Well, actually, you can, because you already mentioned him. Elwy, the one that the king that got lost.
Yeah.
He ends up having a kingdom there.
Yeah.
Because he had a bunch of elves stay behind looking for him, and they form a whole group there, and that's where they end up.
Right. And so this area, and at the time, this forest is still called Non-Elmoth.
Okay.
I think as we know, everything has multiple names here.
It's starting to hurt.
Yeah. The forest is called Doriath. The stronghold in which he lives is called Menegroth. I know. and so as we get more into this, we're going to see 3 elf kingdoms emerge, all of which are hidden elf kingdoms, because in order to protect themselves from Morgoth and from all the evil that is traversing the world, they need to keep themselves secret.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have 3 major secret elf kingdoms: Menegroth, Nargothrond, and Gondolin.
Okay. Nargothrond? Who's
Turgon is the one who's in charge of that. But that comes much later.
Yeah.
No, it's founded by Finrod.
Okay.
And
we like Finrod.
Yeah, we like Finrod. Eravandi said, it took me half the book to figure out that Doriath was in Menegroth. Actually, Menegroth is in Doriath.
Menegroth is the name of the castle, essentially.
It's the stronghold. It's actually
Stronghold.
underground. It was actually a collaboration between elves and dwarves.
Yeah.
Menegroth means the Thousand Caves, so it's actually a bunch of caves underneath the Forest of Doriath. Yes. So that's what we had to deal with in the future.
This is the confused face.
Yes, we will be confused. I'm going to do my best to try to help walk you through this, and I'm throwing a lot of information out there right now. This is not stuff that you need to know right now. This is stuff we're going to get to as the story progresses.
When I was reading the chapter, they were going a little bit about some of the places they went over and under and past and all that. I'm like, okay, all of that. Whatever. Next paragraph.
Yeah, because a lot of the places they go over initially are places that you recognize from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Misty Mountains.
Misty Mountains, the River Anduin, the River Anduin, and then once they cross the Blue Mountains, then they get into all of the different areas here. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And Eravandi and I Stole the One Ring are like, oh my god, my brain's exploding.
Yeah.
Sweeps up brains. Yes, it's.
Remember when it was great? We only know 4 names of the elves. Remember when that happened? That's not true anymore.
Ava says, Menegroth is my home in Middle Earth. It sounds like the ideal place to live.
It was for a while.
For a while. Actually, Menegroth lasted longer than most of the other elf kingdoms.
Yeah. It's like the Roman what the Romans did.
The thingy.
The Roman Empire.
Yeah. Oh, that thing.
Yeah.
And Eravandi says, I know, it sounds great, doesn't it? And yeah, it really does. Like, I have to say, if ever, I would want to see a Silmarillion movie just to see the designers at Weta tackle Menegroth. Because I think they would do an amazing job with that. Because it's a cave system that was made by elves and dwarves together. So it's got both of their aesthetics woven into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just imagining like Daniel Falconer and all those guys just having a field day with something like that.
Yeah.
And
you remember how impressed Legolas was at oh my god, my brain is on
Moria.
Moria. Yes, thank you. And that's not one of the other names.
I know. It's so hard for me to keep all this straight in my head, which is why, thank God Tolkien drew maps. Light of the King says Menegroth is something for Ava to draw one day, unless you already have. And I don't want to spoil anything because I know she's still working on it, but Ava has been doing some portraits of Thingol and Melian, who are the king and queen of Doriath, and they look fantastic. I can't wait to see the final versions. But I'm not going to show them now. I'm going to wait until Ava is done with them and she's cool with them. And now Ava's like, I've dabbled in some sketches. Because Menegroth is a really cool place, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So we're going to talk very briefly now that I have just exploded everybody's brains with too much geography. We're going to get into something a little bit simpler, which is the next chapter of Thingol and Melian.
They do touch on this at the near the end of their walk.
Okay.
The Teleri, there's one point after Olwe is taken over because they've lost Elwe.
Mm-hmm.
Olwe is taken over, and he said, "Come on, guys, let's go. We're lagging behind everybody." Then another leader of the Teleri pops up, and he says, "My name is Lenwe, and we want to hang out over there, so we'll be seeing you guys. Bye."
Yeah.
So again, they're not the unwilling.
They
just never make it. They end up with a whole other kingdom somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they're called the Nandor.
Yes.
And
by the way, we haven't mentioned them by name, but Thingol's people are the Sindar, which you may have heard before.
Yeah. Again, they're not the unwilling. They were willing to go to the Light of the Two Trees, to Valinor, but they never made it there. So they're still Morrikendi, dark elves.
They still fall under Morrikendi,
but he's not.
Right,
he's not considered a dark elf because he did get to see the Light of the Two Trees.
Right, and so they're called Gray Elves.
Ah.
That's literally what Sindar means, is the Gray Elves.
In years after Denethor, son of Lenwë, because he's an elf. What?
Yeah. Well,
to be
fair, the Denethor in Lord of the Rings is Denethor II.
Right. Even so.
And Light of the King saying so. Sindarin is the Sindar language. Yes, and we will get into that later, because since the Sindar were so isolated from the rest of the elves for a very long time, their language morphed into its own version. So when the Noldor came back, their Elvish didn't quite mesh up anymore. So
sort of like the British and the Americans.
Yeah.
Tell me though, if anybody knows this off the top of their head, maybe you do. Oh my God, the words just left my head. What race was Tauriel supposed to be?
Sylvan.
So we don't even know what that is yet.
They're sort of like a lesser Nandor.
Okay.
At least that's sort of like the best I can surmise from it.
Oh, because the ones that Lenwë took away, and the offshoot, the Nandor,
because they
love the trees.
Yeah, and also the Nandor left and went east of the Misty Mountains.
Okay.
So they sort of stayed in that area. So like, now it's said that I think somebody was mentioning, Erebandi was mentioning that Thranduil was a Sindar elf, which could be the case.
Okay. But the Nandor, which Sylvan is supposedly a part of, greater knowledge they had of living things, trees and herb, bird and beast, than all other elves.
Which would explain why Tauriel has a better grasp of the world at large than either Thranduil or Legolas.
Yeah.
Because Thranduil and Legolas are more Sindar.
They're more
noble.
Let's keep to ourselves.
They're more noble.
Yeah. Keep everybody else out.
Yeah. And since they are Sindar, since they're part of the Grey Elves, they come from Thingol or Elwë, who has seen the light of Aman. They sort of have that higher air of nobility about them, as opposed to the Nandor, who never did. That's sort of how Tauriel figures into all of this.
There is a page in the back of the Silmarillion, if you have a copy and you're just scared to read it, that actually delineates all of this about the grouping of the elves. You can't see this very well, but it says Quendi up top, and then it says the Eldar, which is what Orome called them all. And then the Avari, who didn't come. Then the Vanyar and the Noldor and the Teleri and all of those. It's all delineated here.
Now Ava's saying, I thought the Sylvan Elves were lesser Sindar Elves. That's essentially what the Nandor are.
Yeah, because they were willing to go, and then they had to stop along the way. They just ended up
and the Nandor decided, we're going to go back east and we're going to live our own lives.
Yeah. Halfway there, it's like, no, we're going to stay here.
So because they never saw Valinor, they are not associated with Thingol or the Light of Aman. Therefore, they are of lesser stature.
Yeah.
Especially when the Sindar come back and establish themselves. And then within the Nandor, there's even a smaller subgroup called the Lyquendi, who are the Green Elves.
What?
Yeah. And they live in, let me bring up this map here again. They live in this area of the Seven Rivers called Osiriand, which
is where?
Let's see, where my finger is, that big river with all the tributaries going down the center there.
Okay.
That's Osiriand. and that's where the green elves live.
Okay.
And
those were the Lycan
the Lyquindi.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Lots of names, lots of stuff to figure out.
Okay. Did you say we were or weren't going to go into that chapter, the one that's two
Thingol
pages?
and Melian? Yeah, we can talk about that. So, because now we're sort of getting through all the different types of elves there are. If we like even this, we have this this chart in the Silmarillion. Even that is a little confusing, and I feel like it can be simplified better than it is, which I may do.
Oh, okay.
It'd
be nice to be able to put it up there.
Yeah, because it is a lot to take in, but essentially what you have, let me at least do it in finger point form. So at the top, you have the Quendi.
Mm-hmm. That's everybody.
That's everybody. Those are elves. The Quendi are split into two groups. The
Eldar?
No. Even stronger than the Eldar and the Avari.
And the Avari are the unwilling, the ones that don't go. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. The ones that say, no, we're not going.
Mm-hmm. Or, even though there is some overlap here, they are the Calaquendi, the Elves of the Light, and the Moraquendi, the Elves of the Dark. Mm-hmm. Then, within the Calaquendi, you have the Vanya and the Noldor, who are straight up Elves of Light. Mm-hmm. Then you have the Teleri, who are a little bit of both.
Yeah, because a lot of them are willing to go, but decide halfway there, either singly or in groups, you know what, I'd rather stay here.
Right.
Or they get captured along the way.
Yeah. And so the Teleri who go to Valinor, they're simply called the Teleri. Those are their names, and they're mostly shipbuilders. Then you have the Sindar, who are the Grey Elves.
And that's from the Teleri, from those who were trying to find Elwi when he got lost.
Right. And then you have the Nandor, who broke off of the Sindar.
It said, we're a big group, that's Lenway's group, who said, you know what, we're just going to go live up this way. Mm-hmm. They were almost there, too.
And then you have the Lyquendi, who broke off of the Nandor.
Who broke off of Lenway's group.
Right. And those are... And Erebani's wraps duct tape around head to keep brain from exploding again. I know, there is so much here. That's why I chose to really just focus on this one chapter for the most part in this episode, because there is so much in it. Mm-hmm. There is so much to talk about in it.
And just remember, if you ever actually sit down and read it, if you haven't yet, then it's right there in the back. You can go back and forth like we all did.
We had to. It really helps having a visual aid, and if I had more time, I would have done it for this show. I will try to get one to put up on screen next week so you have a better idea of what we're talking about, because it's really hard just talking about it and not having a visual aid with it. And I apologize for that. I didn't have time to do that this week. So, going from there, we can talk briefly about the very brief chapter of Thingol and Melian.
This is it.
It's 2 pages long.
Yeah.
It's 2 pages long.
Because it just touches on them meeting.
Yeah. It touches on what happened with Elwë and how he became Thingol, what happened, why there was this split. Because up until this point, Elwë is very gung-ho about going to Valinor. He is all about it. He's like, come with me, Valinor is great. You're going to love it, guys. It's amazing.
I gotta see that light again. It's fantastic.
The light of Amon's cracked me. I need to fix. Come with me.
The chapter actually begins talking a little bit about the background of Melian.
Yes.
And she was...
Because Melian is a Maya.
She's a Maya. She was under Yavanna?
Yes.
She's under Yavanna, and they said she was akin to Yavanna herself.
Mm-hmm.
So that gorgeous. And when she would hang out in Valinor and start singing, everybody would come around.
Everything stopped.
It's like, oh, is that Melian singing?
Mm-hmm. And Melian gives songs to the nightingales.
Yes, and nightingales follow her wherever she goes. So she's hot. She's hot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows it.
And she's a Maya who decides to go to Middle Earth.
Yeah, she's hanging out, doing a few things.
And
they're not the Maya aren't talked about as much as because we keep on saying Orome and his horse and Ivana are the only ones that hang out in Middle Earth, but they're the only Valar.
They're the only Valar who hang out in Middle Earth. There are Maya who
all over the place.
There are Maya who hang out in Middle Earth too, and Melian is one of them. And because she's akin to Yavanna.
Mm-hmm.
She loves hanging out in the forest, and
she's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous. She's got a song. She's beautiful with song making, and so she gives song to the nightingales in this forest called Nan Elmoth. Or Nan Emloth.
Now, on their trip westward, the elves were starting to break off even on the path that they were taking.
Mm-hmm.
The Teleri went around this way, and Noldor were going around this way. Mm-hmm. And there's one point where Elwë wanted to go talk to his buddy Finwë, who was in charge of Noldor, and he goes over.
So he tries cutting through the woods.
And he's done this several times during the trip, but this one time, he hears a song.
He hears a song. Oh. He hears some sort of singing going on.
What's that?
And he goes wandering off into the woods.
Trying to find the song.
And, of course, falls off the path, loses himself completely, and comes across a grove with Melian in it.
And he stood still, and afar off beyond the voices, he heard the voice of Melian. He forgot then utterly all his people and all the purposes of his mind.
Yep.
That's what it's like to hear a goddess sing.
Yeah. And so he goes to a grove and sees her dancing and singing. You will notice that this is a trope that Tolkien uses a lot.
Dancing and singing.
The man seeing the woman by herself dancing and singing in the woods.
And out of the darkness he looked at her, and the light of Amen was on her face.
Right.
And that's not something to be denied ever when anybody sees it.
Right. And part of it was part of it was like he wanted to see the light of Amen again.
Mm-hmm.
And since Melian is a Maya, she has that in her. And so once he saw that in her, he was like, well, I don't need to go to Valinor, it's right here.
Yeah. A spell was laid on him so that they stood thus long while years.
You're missing one crucial element to that. And that is he goes to her and he touches her.
Oh.
And then a spell falls over both of them where they both stand there
for
staring
years
at each other for years.
Get your head around that.
Mm-hmm.
That's love, baby.
Just standing there staring at each other for years.
Meanwhile, his whole gang is saying, Elwë, where are you? Elwë,
where is he?
Elwë.
Where is he?
Where'd he go?
And so eventually
they lost out on Amen because he's going after affairs of the heart.
Mm-hmm. So Olwe takes over and says to the Teleri, just come with me, we'll keep going.
Yeah, and some wouldn't go.
And a lot of them do go, but a lot of them stay as well because they're loyal to Elwë and they want to find him. They don't want their king lost in the woods. And so they spend years looking for him. And then eventually the spell breaks and Elwë is transformed. Mm-hmm. There's now the light of the Maya in him. Mm-hmm. And he becomes like this sort of visually a cross between a Maya and an elf.
Mm-hmm. When his group finds him again, the Cinder they were called, the Grey Elves, the Elves of the Twilight, and mm-hmm. King Greymantle mm-hmm. was he, Elu Thingol,
that's
in
the
name tongue of the land.
That's the name that he takes, is Elu Thingol, King Greymantle.
So the title of the chapter is actually of Thingol and Melian, not of Elwë and Melian, because Thingol is his new name.
Yeah. That's
another name.
And that's the thing and it confused me for a while because I glossed over this chapter initially and totally never made the connection that Elwë was Thingol. So for the longest time, I had no idea who Thingol was or where he came from. But But that's how it all figures into it. Is Thingol stays in Middle Earth. He stays with Melian. They become king and queen together of Menegroth, the Thousand Caves.
In Doriath.
Yes, but it's not called Doriath yet. At this point, it's called Nan Elmoth.
Oh yes, that's what it says up here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says they will become. And the last line of this chapter is, of the.
Oh, let me
Not
get
yet?
let me get it. I want to read this last line because
Let's read it together.
It's my show and I want to do
Okay.
it. and of the love of Thingol and Melian there came into the world the fairest of all the children of Ilúvatar that was or ever shall be.
I wonder who that will be.
Could it be Luthien? Mm-hmm. Yes, it's Luthien.
And I want to give a spoiler.
Okay, go for it.
I want to give a spoiler. Thingol and Melian are like great grandparents to Elrond.
Yes.
Yep, Elrond's got a little bit of goddess in him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This is like one of these romance tropes that Tolkien seems to do a lot because the way Thingol and Melian meet is the same way that Beren and Luthien meet. It's the same way Aragorn and Arwen meet.
Mm-hmm. And Aragorn actually references Luthien.
Yeah.
He said, "I thought I saw her."
Mm-hmm. And Luthien is the child of Melian and Thingol, and they met the same way. Like I actually call this Tolkien's meet cute.
I only heard that line, the idea of meeting cute, for the first time 3 days ago.
Oh, really?
Harlan Ellison used it. He was at Lostfest.
Oh, yeah.
And he was saying when he first met his wife, they met cute.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's the trope. Like if you see it in a rom-com.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
I'm explaining it to other people.
Yeah.
If in a rom-com where like two people who are destined to fall in love, they bump into each other and have that sort of awkward
Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah, like they have that awkward meeting where it's like, oh, I've dropped my stuff. Oh, you've dropped your stuff.
Such cute.
And so Tolkien, this is Tolkien's version of a meet cute because he does it all the freaking time. And it is. It's a very romantic. It's an over romanticized way of meeting somebody. Is to see this beautiful woman who has the face of a goddess, the voice of a nightingale.
Literally, the face of a goddess.
Yeah. Face of a goddess, voice of a nightingale, dancing and singing in the forest, and the man is just sitting there. He sees her and forgets everything else in the world. And let's see. Northerner is saying Tolkien seemed kind of grouchy, and I mean he had Edith and he and Edith have Beren and Luthien on their tombstones. Come on, how romantic is that? It's very true. It's very true.
Actually, it's kind of cute too because
now Lady Rowan is saying I read that his wife did sing and dance for him in a field once.
Aww. Just the other day, my boyfriend played a song called "And She Dances," and said it reminded him of me. Aww. So adorable.
That is kind of adorable. Light of the King says Tolkien was romantic on the inside, and that's what counts. And
he was a romanticist.
Yeah. Now there is one thing that I want to bring up, and this is like going way ahead. Tolkien always seems to get very. He's criticized a lot for not having many female main characters, and especially female main characters who have any sort of gumption to them.
Yeah, he elevates the female characters.
He elevates them, but I would say like because I mean you have Éowyn who disguises herself as a man and then kills the Witch King of Angmar.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But then you also have Arwen, who in the books
is a girly girl.
She's a prize for Aragorn to win.
Yeah.
But then, and he gets criticized for that. And what I feel like is that he doesn't get enough credit for a story later on, which is the story of Beren and Luthien, because Luthien, she's this beautiful sort of wood nymph type character, but she is also a hardcore warrior, which we will see as we get into that story. Because, okay, spoiler alert, she takes out Sauron in that story.
Well, obviously not takes him out, but takes him out.
But takes him out. But kicks him out of his fortress.
She kind of waylays all of Valar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luthien is a badass.
Yeah.
And I don't think she gets enough credit as a badass as she does a beautiful wood nymph type character.
But the thing is, that's her power, being the beautiful wood nymph.
Yeah, and also in disguises. Like she's very powerful in disguises, and also she I don't want to talk about it in too great detail.
But he does. I
really do, because I love this story, but I have to wait until we get to it in the book.
I know the next few chapters. I mean, until chapter 10, you got me, because I just love this stuff.
Yeah.
The whole Fëanor thing. Oh my God.
Oh, I mean, Fëanor is great, but my God, the story of Beren and Luthien, it is one of my favorite stories right now. Like, you could make an entire movie trilogy just on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, Eravandi is talking about when she says to Sauron, "You give me the fortress, or I'll have my dog strip you of your body." And that's true. That's exactly what she says to him. And so, but I don't want to get into spoilers. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But yeah, when we get to Beren and Luthien, I'm going to lose my freaking mind. I'm just warning you right now.
Maybe we all need to back off.
Because seriously, I love the Beren and Luthien story so much. It's ridiculous.
Because
yeah. Well, Fëanor is again, I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but it's very tragic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's incredibly tragic, but it's a.
You can't see that. That's
it's
my ring. That's my Nenya.
Oh, nice. Oh, that is Nenya. Very cool. Very cool. And Eravandi's like, okay, I'm getting too excited. And she's like, I'll lose my mind with you. I know. Beren and Luthien is a great story, and I can't wait to get into it. But we gotta do the Fëanor stuff first, which is great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's really great stuff. But a lot of that is going to come later, because as we get further into it, first of all, beyond this, we've got, after Thingol and Melian, we have of Eldamar and the Princes of the Adalier, which is, I hate to say it, this is a very dry chapter.
Okay. Because I'm going to miss this, so I'm okay with that.
This is the chapter that outlines all the different lineages.
Oh, this is he begat him, and shit. This is the biblical equivalent of...
This is all of that. And then we...
No, you cannot do that chapter while I'm gone. I must be here for that chapter.
Okay, jeez, settle down, woman.
Are you sure you just don't want to skip next week? Because I must be available for that chapter.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. For next week, I'll go solo, and I will do the charting of all of these different elf families.
Charting.
Yeah. It's going to be a dry episode, but it's something we need to talk about.
Because if you don't know those references, it'll be so much harder to get the references of all the names in the important chapter to follow. Yeah. That's why it exists.
Yeah, it's laying the groundwork, and it's tedious, but you need to know it.
Yeah, sort of like, some of the...
Otherwise, what happens next is not going to make sense.
Yeah, some of the geography that we covered this week is still, it's a little tedious, but it's important to know where they went and how these went this way.
And Lady Rowan is rightly pointing out that next week is Easter, and that's why I figured most people aren't going to be here for that, so I will still do it. It'll be on YouTube. You'll be able to watch the archive at your convenience. Mm-hmm. But this is going to be... it's going to be much drier, and because the chapter after that is
called.
Let me get to it. Of Fëanor and the Unchaining of Melkor.
I'm gonna be here for that.
This is where the good stuff starts happening.
So Unchained Melkor, look out.
So that's going to be in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because next week we're going to do the charting. The week after that we're going to do Middle Earth Madness.
Okay.
Then the week after that we're getting back to this, and we're getting to Fëanor and the darkening of Valinor.
Look out!
It's good stuff, man. So, what is that? Light of the King says, yes, my family celebrates Easter and Passover. One of the years it's celebrated on the same weekend. That's true, that they are celebrated on the same weekend right here.
It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I Stole the One Ring saying I'll be here next week. Okay, that's good.
Thank you, Eru.
Eru says, I love Suzanne's excitement about this. Yeah, it's intense. Like, as excited as she is, as excited as I am about Beren and Luthien, she's just excited about Fëanor.
You know, it's good stuff.
And like, and that isn't to say that I don't love Fëanor and his story, but I mean, for me, Beren and Luthien is where it's at.
Yeah. Okay. It's
The-
sort of like,
and you see, this is what I love
is
about
it like, who was it that Gimli was arguing with about who was the prettier princess?
Oh yeah.
I like Fëanor. He likes Beren and Luthien. Can we manage to live in an apartment together? I don't know.
So, but I mean, that's what I love about the Silmarillion is that there are so many stories in here, so many different stories, so many different characters that it is very easy to like love one story more than another one. But they're all good stories.
Yeah. No, Beren and Luthien. There are. Oh my goodness! I play a role-playing game that's superheroes, and one of our players, our GM, has never let anybody. This is completely off topic, but not really. One of our GM has never let anybody play a non-humanoid character before, but this time around, he's let someone play a hellhound. And there's a kind of hellhound in the story of Beren and Luthien, which is kind of cool because the hellhound talks as well, and the hellhound from our game talks, and the one in the book talks, and it's really cool.
And Ava's saying, "I can't wait until we get to Turin."
Oh my God, Turin!
I'm like, Ava, you have a dark heart, don't you?
Yeah.
Turin is not a happy story.
That's a sad.
It's a great story, but oh my God, is it a sad story? But I mean, that would be a great one to sink our teeth into. That's another story that I feel could be a trilogy on its own.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I don't think anybody would have a heart to go see it if it were a movie.
Well,
like, oh my God, it's
because
so
the ending is so sad. It doesn't
like Romeo and Juliet.
It doesn't have like a happy climax like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit does.
No one succeeds there.
No,
except the dragon.
Yeah.
Well, and even he dies.
And even he dies.
Sucks to know Turin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks to be Turin. It really sucks to be Turin. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, and like this is what you see this excitement here. This is why the Silmarillion is so good, because there are so many good stories in it, and you can get really passionate about them. And the great thing is, all these different stories all come together in this much bigger whole, which culminates in the War of Wrath.
Yeah, there's so much in Tolkien in the War of Wrath. So much in Tolkien that is so wonderful to share with other people who know. I had a knee replacement surgery in January, and I've been going through physical therapy. I was at my physical therapist, and I said something. I was making a reference to my ring, and from across the room, my physical therapist said, "Is that Nenya?" I mean, he didn't say, "Is that Galadriel's ring?" He said, "Is that Nenya?"
That's when you know you got a real fan.
Yeah, you do.
But yeah, like, and one of the things that I love, and this is one of the reasons I started this show in the first place, was to bring that passion out and to show people, like, okay, the Silmarillion, stuff like the Silmarillion, stuff like reading different books, it's not a dry, arduous task. It is a freaking awesome journey.
And you can gain so much energy from simple words on a page.
Yeah.
I remember when I finished Lord of the Rings, I cried. I ugly cried
Oh yeah.
for a good 20 minutes after I finished that.
I can see that because
Poor Frodo.
well, the Grey Havens it's a beautiful chapter, but
Yeah,
it's
but
a sad chapter.
Yeah, but he not only. I mean, he couldn't be happy. I was at work. And I was on a break when I finished it. I had to go back to work, and this was in fast food. Just, smile and look pretty and take someone's order. And I had to go back to that after finishing Tolkien. The supervisor said, are you okay? He thought someone had died. I was crying so hard.
Well,
ugly cry.
Well, someone had died.
Just my heart.
Well, I mean that's the thing. Like you get into this stuff, and like these are great journeys. These are great adventures, and I think when you see somebody be passionate about that, then you want to experience some of that passion too, and that's what encourages you to read. Because like I know lots of people also who like to say that they are promoting literacy by basically screaming, "Read a damn book" at people.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen to me where like I've posted on Facebook like I just watched the latest episode of Game of Thrones. I loved it so much, and then one of my pennant friends will comment saying, "Read the book, you moron!"
Yeah, I have a couple of friends who've been doing that too. I said, "No, just tell me the spoilers. I like the TV show."
Mm-hmm.
So
and I'm like,
I read, but
at which point, like, I have to shut them down and say, "I've already read the books. I still like the show."
You can like both?
You can like both.
No.
Yeah, you can. It's amazing, right?
No way.
Northerner is saying, "Did you cry so much that your buttons rusted?"
Oh, I wasn't buttoning back then. That was before buttons.
Oh, wow.
Actually,
before buttons.
I got into button making because of the Two Towers movie coming out. I wanted
Really?
Because of that, I wanted a button. I wanted a single button that said, "I'm a tree beard hugger." Because that's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Someone should have a button that says, "I'm a tree beard hugger." No one did. And years ago, I remembered that I had a friend that had a little hand button press, and I said, "I wonder if I could buy one." And I bought one. But that was why.
Oh, okay.
So I could have an "I'm a tree beard" button. And then I went crazy.
And thus the legacy began.
Yes.
And Lady of the King is saying she loves your outfit.
Oh, thank you. It's new. I bought clothes this week.
Ooh, snazzy.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, this is the optimum height for wearing buttons. Up closer to your face, the lower they go, especially on a woman, it looks a little inappropriate.
Yeah. Good to know. Good to know.
Wear the buttons higher up, lapel area.
Trust Suzanne for button etiquette.
Yes.
So yeah, like this is why I do this show, is to just sort of show this passion for these books, because I mean, those of you who have been with me for a long time know that I've talked about a lot of different books, and some of them I've really loved, some of them I've been kind of about, some of them I've straight up not liked. Mm-hmm. There have been a couple.
These books are worth passion.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, reading is a commitment, and for that kind of commitment, you do need passion. But when you see another person's passion for it, you kind of want a part of it. Mm-hmm. You want to experience whatever this person experienced.
You want some of what I'm taking.
Yeah, and like one of the most gratifying things that I saw was a couple weeks ago when I posted this big article on Torn about various characters from the Silmarillion, and I sort of feel like I did a Thingol a little bit of an injustice.
Poor Thingol.
I don't think I portrayed him as well as I could have. And
it's funny, before the show began, we were talking about comparing the jackassianness of Thingol versus Thranduil.
Yeah.
Because even though Thingol is fantastic and wonderful, there's a bit about giving up daughters, giving up children. Oh, and Elrond.
Elrond. It was Elrond.
It was Elrond.
Yeah. Thranduil doesn't give up. Well,
he's a jackass.
Gives up his shirt.
Yeah, he's a jackass, but not for the same reason. Elrond.
No, Thranduil is more of a jackass.
Yeah. Elrond and Thingol had a problem giving up their daughters.
Right. But the way we were talking about it was Elrond. What they both do is they say, you can have my daughter under these certain conditions. Now Elrond says to Aragorn, you can marry Arwen, but only after you become king.
Yeah, my daughter is not getting lost for anything less than a king.
Right, and
And we won't
And you
discuss
see,
what...
but that's an attainable goal, because at that point Aragorn knew that he was destined to be the king anyway. So it's just a matter of doing it. And then, but Thingol, on the other hand, he says, "You can marry my daughter if you give me a Silmaril from Morgoth's crown."
In your nostril, on one foot,
Yeah.
hopping, and singing "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star."
Yeah, but like Elrond gave Aragorn a task that he knew he could accomplish,
and knew he should accomplish,
and he knew he should accomplish, and he knew that this would incentivize that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas,
and that it was good for mankind for him to accomplish this.
Whereas Thingol gave Beren a task, basically sending him to die. He was like, "You're like," and he even says like, he's like, "You," he like even says like he will probably die doing this, and then my problems are solved.
Yeah. But we're not talking about that yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, that's it. Like, I think. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No.
Okay. This was a bigger episode. We talk a lot about geography and the descendants of the elves and how they all break down and everything. But the big thing is the climax of the first big story, the Creation trilogy, with the chaining of Melkor, which is like, it's kind of hard to make out, but that actually is a picture of Melkor chained up in a big pit.
Okay.
Yeah, just take my word for that. And so and that's where the big thing where this, if we were to break this down into trilogies, which I kind of like to do, this is the end of our first trilogy, the Creation trilogy. And this ends with Melkor being defeated and sentenced to 3 ages in the deepest, darkest chamber of the halls of Mandos.
So Melkor will never bother us again.
Never again. We'll never have to worry about him ever again. All is right with the world.
That's the end.
And then we have the coming of the elves.
Now we're starting the next trilogy.
And so the next trilogy, I would sort of begin right around Feanor's time. So what we're going to be talking about next week would be what is essentially the prologue of the next trilogy. You know how in the beginning of both trilogies, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, they both start with big flashbacks that sort of are info dumps.
Yeah.
That's essentially what we're going to be talking about next week, is the info dump for the next trilogy, which is the War of the Jewels.
Yeah. But the prologue, the written prologue for The Hobbit, is all about smoking.
Yeah.
Because that was a big important part.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he shouldn't write it. I'm just saying
he did.
Didn't figure in as highly as I thought it would.
Yeah. So that's where we're going to leave it for this week. I want to thank Suzanne for coming and
being a fangirl.
And showing as much passion for this as I have. And for everybody else, I apologize for making your brains explode multiple times with geography and lineages. It's only going to get worse, and I'm going to do my best to try to hold your hand through it. It's going to be rough, people. I ain't going to lie. But so I will see you all next week, where we'll talk about the races of the elves with visual aids that should help a bit more.
And if you're not available because it's WonderCon or because it's Easter, it'll be up on YouTube.
It'll be up on YouTube. And if you're going to WonderCon, be sure to check out the One Ring panel. I don't know who's going to be on it.
Still having a panel.
We're still going to have a panel. There's going to be another panel Sunday at 2.
Oh, very nice.
I won't be there for that, unfortunately. But a lot of our good staffers will be. Nancy, Cliff will be there, of course, and I think Kathy may be there. She may not. I don't know yet. But Christy and Nicole will be there. It'll be a good group. It'll be a good panel.
Who knows what Nicole will be dressed as? We don't know.
Could it be something from Game of Thrones?
It could be.
It could be.
And Game of Thrones will be starting up soon.
Yeah, Game of Thrones starts up on the 12th.
We're very excited about that. I expect you to have something going on. I expect you to, so get it done.
Yikes, okay. Jeez, woman.
You know Allison will make a pie.
Oh, I know she'll make a pie.
Yes,
yeah.
she will.
I have a tradition of having a big gathering for the first and last episode of each season of Game of Thrones.
We have a friend who is a phenomenal cook, baker, whatever you want to call her, and has made...
She makes this amazing chicken pie.
Well, I mean, it's
to call it
themed.
Call it a chicken pot pie does it a disservice because it is so much more than that.
Yeah, it's themed. It's British, so it's not an American chicken pot pie. It's a British thing, and she does the crust, and she had the Stark wolf on the top. She carved it out.
She hand carved
the
Stark wolf on it, and Northerner with the rim shot. Suzanne knows how to push Josh's buttons.
Oh! Ow, that one hurt.
Oh my god. So, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. Okay, so I guess I'm doing another party.
Okay, so you'll hear a little bit about that from here and there.
Yeah, so when we come back, when we do the 12th, which will be our Middle Earth Madness episode, I'll be doing a Game of Thrones party right after that. So,
yes, you will.
Oh, good lord. I'm
Allison
nervous.
will make a pie.
I'm scared for my life. So thank you all very much for joining in this episode. This is a big episode, a lot of passion here. I will see you all next week for the lineages of the elves, and I will see you all then. If you can make it, if not, it'll be on YouTube. And really, if you're spending time with family for Easter, have a great time, and I will miss you next week.
Have good food.
Have good food. Find some good eggs.
I'm a good egg.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice my name?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good egg.
Yeah, she's a good egg.
I'm a good egg.
And so I will see you all then, and never stop reading.
Never stop reading.